hi there, ho there, who there, ouch, ouch, ooh. Hello, everybody, hi. Let me now just give a hi to everyone on X. Um, just gave everyone the hi there, ho there. It's 5 o'clock, yes. I have to mea culpa about last week. I was actually planning on doing the live stream at the normal time, but I was railroaded into, I would say railroaded. Some of my friends said, you agree to do it. Give a talk on the election that social. I've been on regular media a couple times about the American election and being one of the people who said Trump was going to win. I was making the argument for Trump in Polish circles that many people in academia weren't making. So when the election turned out the way it was, they are scrambling for people who had some credibility. So I was rather busy during the last couple days. In fact, on Monday, I'm supposed to be in a podcast that I might not be able to get to. I hope to be home by 5 o'clock. If we're back at 5 o'clock, I'll go do it. Voila, it is the nature of the cookie game, as they say. I had to do this thing, and we were trying to get back home in time, and we got hit with Warsaw traffic. I mean, it was worse than normal. We got stuck in a parking lot for like over an hour and a half. So it was like, and by the time we got home, it was like 7:20, 7:15 when I got home. So it's like, there's no point of doing going online. I was 2 hours late, So it was like, maybe around 2 hours. Around 7:20, 7:15, 7:20, we got back. And I had to change. It was cold out, so I had to get off my suit I was on. I was in a suit jacket for the conference. For the thing, it was I pissed there was a lot of Ukrainian students at this event at this private school. And I kind of pissed them off when I kind of told them that why should America, when they kept on asking, well, is Trump going to send American troops to help them? And I go, no, they got to take advantage. I said, well, given that half of you are Ukrainian fighting age people, why are you here? I had a lot of males fighting age. I said, well, how come you're here? Shouldn't you be back in Ukraine fighting for your independence? And if you're not willing to fight for your independence, why should anyone else die be sent to a combat zone to do something you're not yourself willing to do? So that was that was kind of a shocker in that sense. I said, listen, I don't think Trump is going to send American troops. He will sell you stuff. He will allow you to be sold. He's not going to give you stuff anymore. You're going to have to pay for it. Oh, we're a poor country. I said, really? You're a poor country? No, I don't think so. You have lots of energy, lots of wealth in that country. You have agriculture. That's why all the big European agri firms are buying up all your land, because they know that they can produce food much cheaper, produce food there at higher, given the quality of the land there, it's much higher quality than in most of Europe. So they can produce at lesser costs the materials and bypass having to send it to Africa. So, that's why the Germans and the French agribusinesses are very much interested in Ukraine. And also the energy and gas division. This is why Eastern Ukraine is essential to get back for the purposes of energy and gas for the Europeans. So I don't see this. Given that case, why should America help Europe? Something that is benefiting Europe. Europe should be be doing more of the heavy lifting. Oh, people say, but there are. No, they're not really. Yeah, oh, but I give you graphs. I have my friend who taught, he's a real defense apologist for it, and tries to show the Ukrainians are doing something. I go, yeah, they're doing something. They should be doing 90% of the work. I don't mind selling the Ukrainians equipment and selling our old crap. I don't mind even having them buy our old crap at discounts, but not giving it to them in that sense. I think this is lend lease. We should be getting something. U.S. interests, U.S. firms should be getting. It should be U.S. firms getting the first contract bids for all this development that's happening in Ukraine after the war, not European firms, given how much we're really substantively contributing. So no. So either, this is what I see there. I mean, we should. I mean, that's what the Trump election was about. Americans not being suckers anymore overseas. We're doing the sucker stuff. And we can see immediate action. Why do you think the Germans are holding their election? The Germans are now blatantly terrified of what's going to happen, and they need to make a deal with. They're trying to make peace to, get long-term oil agreement, energy agreements with the United States. They're trying to. They're going to try to disband. They're going to hold early elections. They're going to try to, and in doing early elections, they're going to rush to try to get the ADF to Alternative for Germany to disbar it as a political party. If they do that, they'll be outright. I think there may be violence in Germany. I mean, if that's the case, I don't understand then why doesn't ADF actors start using violence against targeting? Do Baader-Meinhof. Let's remember Baader-Meinhof in the 1970s and 80s. Does the German elite want a return to Baader-Meinhof targeting of German officials again, which will be the outcome if they feel that they're, if you delegitimize political parties and a significant political parties that is growing in popularity, if you do such an outright move that only helps the dying and unpopular political parties, this will be such a backlash. I hope the German courts show some good sense and reject what the leading parties are trying to do before this election. They call this early election because they need to get this. What's happening is the SDP is hoping to distance itself from the Greens, so it can get a solider position, so that they don't have to rely on Green votes, so that they can abandoning the green economic policy and go more for traditional labor policies, hardcore industrial labor. So they make a blue-green, a blue-green coalition that will abandon the current red, yellow, green, the traffic light coalition that currently is governing Germany right now. So we'll see what happens. I think this is post-Trump. We had the Tutsis first declaring, we're not going to do something, and then some leaders. I think that shows how the out of control this leadership is in the Houthi leadership. They were told to kind of back down, and then what happened is certain rebels decided to just start shooting again. I think that is a recipe for getting Iran fucked. And same thing with I think there will be a little bit of green light to the Israelis. Under a Trump administration, they'll get a green light to hit Iran and knock out the Iranian nuclear facilities and the oil facilities. In other words, the Israelis do it, not the U.S. So that the Trump administration will say, "You go do it, take it out," because that's why. By the way, we're going to reimpose our sanctions. So therefore, this will fuck over Iran badly. And at a very moment when the regime is facing internal turmoil, so a repeat of Milosevic, what happened to Milosevic in 1999, that you just have to have the Israelis knock out the state infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, the money, and the nuclear infrastructure. Hit it hard, 2 days of bombings and attacks. Right now, the Iranian anti-air system is gone, to the most part. because of what has happened. You will see some retaliation, but nothing the Israelis couldn't handle, and particularly if the administration gives them support. I think Trump. The problem with the Biden administration is they put more pressure to overturn the Netanyahu government than to overturn the mullahs. They made the mullahs rich. If the Biden administration did not undo the Trump sanctions against Iran and gave them money, giving them more money as they did, and opened the spigot for them to get more rich, the events of last October 8th would not have happened. Not this October 8th, but the previous year would not have happened, and we wouldn't be in this war. And this would not have, Hamas would have not dared or been able to do this. Hezbollah would not be done. Hezbollah and Hamas is only doing what they're doing now because they were funded and emboldened by the Iranian. Same thing with the Houthis. I think what will happen is the Houthis I think the Trump administration will just let the Air Force, do what he did to Syria and ISIS do it, I think we'll get ISIS 2.0 in the Houthis, with just unreleasing, glassing everything, not glassing with missiles, but with regular ordnance. So therefore, that is what I suspect is going to happen in that sense, and the Iranians know that, and I don't think there needs to be an open war with that. Also, I don't think the North Korean situation is going to fall apart. I don't think the North Koreans want these Korean soldiers coming back to North Korea. And already all the intelligence tells us that there's already conflict, huge problems with the cooperation between the so-called North Korean soldier units, the North Koreans sent to that they can't put them in combat. They can't put them assign them to combat. So they're not integrating well with the command control structure of the Russian military. And the Russian grunts hate them. And what happens is these people are seeing the world for the first time outside of the North Korean paradise and discovering there's food and other things. That's if they sooner or later the Russians are going to force them to go. They're not going to accept them. Remember, this has been the complete strategy of what happened with the Russians with their own former Soviet populations in the East that they recruited to do this, and they had to send most of them back because they were so much inter-ethnic rivalry and inter-ethnic conflict that they're unable to do anything with in that sense. It is kind of like that situation. So you have to understand that this is a situation of what's going on in the North Korean situation, and that's what some of the things I talked about in the last Friday. What else? Okay, so I owe you guys an apology for not being here last Friday. I have to repeat what correlates James sent me. I have to find out. Hold on, where did I? Oh no! Correlates sent me a thing, 2 posts. One of the things that he sent one time we were talking about it was he tried sending me a message and I didn't upload. He goes, it's mysterious that YouTube ate my comments last week. That's like 2 weeks ago, right? And there was nothing spicy or race about the race or mid-century German regime in it. I know Moras is very concerned with arguing about the central place of will and political voluntarism in the modern political thinking, but he rarely wrote systemically about it. So the French writer Moras, he was right about it. I think Moras's writing is a problem of lack of systemization. He talked about, yes, that much of Hobbesian, Lockean constructions, and also much of the post-Hobbesian Rousseauian, state is a product of human will. And this is something that really needs to be. So this is why his critique of, Maurras was a critique reactionary right who critique this will-based. Now the problem is that we like the will-based. The radical reactionary likes will as much as the liberal does. The liberal says he doesn't like will, but the liberal is based on the Hobbesian, Lockean construction of the individual will and the individual agent wanting his individualized will. Whereas the reactionary right speaks of collective will, right? This idea of collective will. So what is a collective will but the aggregation of individual wills? So this is kind of a conundrum in this, that in many ways you get a metaphysics of wills that you have to deal with. You get stuck with modern political thought, which claimed it was a rejection against metaphysics, is in fact much more metaphysical than the ancient system, ironically, in that sense, right? We can joke about this. He goes, but he never wrote systematically about it. His secretary and then successor as the leading French royalist thinker, Pierre Bontag, was more of a philosopher, ended up a professor of philosophy at Sorbonne. That's why that Maurras and people on the French extreme right of the reactionaries who wanted to do this, he wasn't that much of a systemic thinker. His successor, Corliss says, and I don't really know much about his successor in this sense. I started reading his book, and I think that is the politics considered la partie politique considérée comme sourcée, of the source, considering the sources, the common sources, right? The politics considering the common sources. And he says this one deepens some of the themes from Maurras. This is clearly he's talking about. This is Bontang's work, I suspect, around the need for a measure in politics, so it does not become unbounded, right? The idea of measure, and the argument that the best measure is embodied in human nature, inspired by Aristotle. So, okay, I might have to read Bontang's book in that sense. I might have to find a copy of it someplace. The politics considered from the sources. And I think that's right. I think that is true. You need a measure. You need some kind of restraint. You need something to prevent it becoming unlimited. This is the problem. This is the classic economic problem of the belief that all things is infinite progress or infinite development of utility. No, there's a certain point you get an optimality of utility, and then as you keep on trying for more, you get less. Right? This is the whole principle of diminishing marginal return. So that inside inside human things, inside real things, inside physical biological things, there's limits. And because there's limits, there needs to be measure. And I think I'm not sure this is how I would say it. So I don't know, this is the argument of Bontang, but this is the measure of this. And I think that is correct. In some ways, some influence from Gabriel Marcel and Christian phenomena. There is some influence. Marcel's idea of the Christian will, Christian existentialism, phenomenology, and that stuff. But Baton is pretty unknown in the Anglosphere. Yeah, he is. I heard it. I didn't hear much of it. I know about Maurras because of my interest in the French thing. But I always think of Maurras as being kind of like a not systematic thinker, kind of like Augustine in that case. Not systematic, a rhetorical figure. Now, the other post that he gave, and I'm going to be in trouble for not giving myself more space on this. He gave people two posts. He put the second post on Foucault. There's an interesting argument by Luc Ferry and Hélène Renaud in their book on the thought of 68. It was okay. These two French liberals, Luc Ferry and Renaud. These were, in fact, they wrote a book together. Many of them wrote a book with Renaud to do about Nietzsche, about the non-Nietzscheans, right? Nietzsche and the non-Nietzscheans. of the role of Nietzsche, and that correlates made mention to in a previous discussion post. He says where it is just a struggle of wills and some vaguely Hegelian Marxian genealogy, which has progressive direction. So, but yeah, this is the problem with Foucault. Now, the Foucault article. If you want English readers who want to read what Ferry and Raoult said about Foucault, you can find it in the book on the New French. It's published by Mark Lilla at Princeton University Press in the edition of writings on New French thought. In the collection of writings on New French thought, they have a chapter. They have this article from the Thought of '68 about Foucault. You mentioned Foucault. In that, I think this is the article in that sense. They argue that this duality is typical of a lot of the thought of that period, in a sense, where Nietzsche and Heidegger were very influential at the same time as Marx. That is basically now. It is something I think you can detect the woke thinking that is still influenced by Foucault and Derrida. See, but the problem with this, okay, Derrida and Foucault are radically different thinkers in this way. And I've always found, you go look at Foucault's lectures, not his books, but his course lectures that have been transcribed. They're not bad. Whereas Derrida course lectures, they're engagements with esoteric masturbation in that sense. Even though you might find something interesting in it, you might find something interesting in a Derrida lecture because he looks at a metaphor. He'll look at a specific metaphor and then kind of work off of it. And therefore, there's something. Again, this is the problem with Derrida. Derrida often will be useful to look at rhetoric in terms of the rhetorical structures of things, and then is creative with it in that sense. He flushes the kind of things, but the problem is there's no. In other words, what he ends up doing generate deeper images that works at the level of the surface, works perfectly, and then tries to construct meaning, even if it's not necessary or useful to the thing. But in other words, the hermeneutic Strauss used was you don't build or go to the esoteric unless the exoteric, the surface, doesn't satisfy, it doesn't answer, it doesn't respond, it doesn't. In other words, if the surface argument works, there's no need to go any deeper. Where Derrida argues that the surface is only one interpretation, and that, of course, that really it's since there's no real text there, there's no surface, and therefore it's kind of a reader response approach to the thing. I look at the thing, and then therefore I have to construct the meaning from my engagement with it in that sense. Therefore, it becomes kind of how the reader responds and the images, and then the relative merit of his power over others to convince others this is what it is. In other words, all meaning, all reasoning, all communications is will to power in this in this Derridian approach. That therefore it's all violence, all communication is violence, all reasoning is a form of coercion and violence. We hear there is some agreement between the two, Foucault and Derrida, but they're going a little differently. Derrida is clearly a more political thinker in a sense. Not Derrida, sorry, Foucault. Foucault is the much more political thinker. He is constructing with political texts and political writers at this time. And I think they're right about this. There's this interconnection between Marxist thinking. 68 is that last moment in this period where Marx, the 60s are this period where that the new Heidegger and Nietzsche thinking and Marxism still dominates. And they intersect in these writers like Jean-Paul Sartre. You see reaction against it in someone Camus in the 1950s, right? You see this, it's the post-war reality of this, of the struggle that between, the right of the existentialism, the rise of existentialism in French thought that occurs because of the influence of Heidegger and through Nietzsche on French thought in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. That starts to kind of become post-structuralist after 68, 70. And that's the change, right? There's a whole problem about this. What is woke? Woke. Postmodernism itself doesn't, in other words, post-structuralism, like people like Derrida and Foucault is not enough to create woke. They're not sufficient to create woke. Even Gail Deluge and even crazy Judith Butler, they don't have. They produce the content by which woke will emerge. But woke comes from other means. It comes from classical liberal means, in my opinion. It comes from the English social justice tradition of around the time of the French Revolution. This is, it owns the radicals. It owns more to the radicals in a sense. English radicals. I think it owes much more to the English radicals and the tradition that the English radicals make in political thought. The later John Stuart Mill, right? And then you add the American Puritan experience. You add a Puritanism, a secularized Puritanism, the behavior of a Puritanism, a dogmatic Puritanism, with the ideas of post-structuralism. And then you get woke in a sense. This is the combination. It's not just because of, this is where I take issue with the Jordan Petersons of the world, and that even the Hicks, I forget his first name, Hicks, the old professor from Illinois, I don't remember, Rockland College, Rockford College professor who's now at University of Austin. The woke, his book on his one of his best-selling book on understanding postmodern. It's a good book. No, I won't criticize it, but it became a cult book because all the gamers relied on it. Gamergate and those responding on Gamergate, but all the people who started wanting to look for a critique. It was an accessible, easily understandable critique, mass available, and written for the general audience. Stephen Hicks, Understanding Postmodernism was embraced. It was accessible, and it was accessible in a way that the reactors against social justice left, SJWs as they called it, starting in 2010, right? 2010, 2012. Starting, the origins of Gamergate, right, and the whole reaction against the rise of social justice activism among the liberals, attacking the liberals. Started with, this is the new atheist debate, right? The new atheism was arguing against the original new atheists were attacking against. They were originally attacking in the 90s against fundamentalist Christians, but starting after 2001, they were attacking against the new atheists were attacking Islam, radical Islam, and the Islamicists, and trying to defend the Western Enlightenment against the irrational Enlightenment. There is this sense of this, in that sense, and that they discovered the enemy. Some of them discovered the enemy. Now, then what happened? There was a fight with among these should they embrace around 2010, 2012? Should the new atheist types accept social justice arguments, or is social justice just another form of religion? And that was a big debate. That was the fight between that. This debate then occurs within the rise of feminists and feminist attempts and critiques, and other and gender ideology critiques on things like the gamers, Gamergate, and then other sources of other types of these music industry, the music community, all the not, the things, all of the arts and crafts and things like this that were mostly, things like, you name it, from role-playing gamers, role-playing gamers, card gamers, comic books, movies, you name it. It was the radical left, controlled by the social justice with feminists and gender studies types, all started to dominate and demand that other groups start, complying and, diversify their interests and, so forth and so on. We all know this whole story, and this was the beginning of the red pill idea, right? What was a stupid metaphor in a, it was funny because the movie, we think of it Matrix, but we have to remember how the two directors are now transgenderites. They chop their little dicks off and now become girls, right? The Wahachi, whatever they are, the things, the Wahachi things. One to simply just accept the world as it was, and one to see the world as it really is, right? The blue pill would, okay, you can just be happy and go back to the world you see, or you see the red pill and you see how things really are, right? That was the metaphor of that thing. And what happened was that once they got confronted with the reality of the social justice left and the feminists and the backlash against it, it became kind of like eye-opening, but also radicalizing in that sense, radicalizing to the against this movement of this. Okay, it was reactionary in that sense. It caused a reaction, right? It fundamentally caused a reaction. So what is it? I think you can detect the woke thinking still influenced by Foucault and Derrida, but see, Foucault is a very hard person because Foucault, in many ways, Foucault is more sympathetic than Derrida, and this is why my buddy Glenn Elmers has written some stuff about Foucault recently that's much more. I still think there's fundamental problems with Foucault. I think there's no positive solution. I think, in other words, you could use the tools of Foucault are the genealogical tools. There's two sides of Foucault. There's a kind of simple genealogy, a genealogy model, which attempts to see relational structures and things like this in terms of power dynamics, okay? But the problem with this model, it's just merely a negative critique. It has no solution to get out of it. In other words, the model the approach he gives about genealogy and about power leads us to a no exit solution. Okay, I'm going to steal Sartre's title of No Exit, because there's no exit of the power dynamic that Foucault highlights in his teaching. I'm suspect here. This is why I'm kind of a little worried about this. I don't know how to answer this question in that sense. Is Foucault's argument Marxian? See, the problem with this is that it goes beyond Marxist. Now, Marxian argument argue about systemic structures of class and the idea that the inevitable structure of power will lead to this end. See, there's no end. In other words, Foucault offers no solution to the end of history, because you can never escape power in Foucault. There's no situation after the dictatorship of the proletariat that the withering away of power. In fact, you can see in Foucault state phobia. Okay, this is another thing. This is a big direction in the scholarship on Foucault. There's an interesting book the state phobia about Foucault's and state phobia and this just around the time as he's turning to his in the late 70s. Foucault is turned before, but just what he's developing his biopolitics things. He starts writing these things about governmentality that is kind of making his own peace with neoliberalism. That is, again, he at the same time rejecting state. Is in other words, he wants to go in a direction very much contrary to what the Gramsciites. The Gramsciites look at civil society as a neo-patrimonial reality that can only but frustrate the revolution and the people. That you need to centralize. And now, of course, the social left would argue that you do this by the postmodern social left argues this by you capture. This is the long march. This is the Gramscian long march through the institutions, right? You capture the institutions, you capture the private institutions. And by capturing the private institutions, you basically remove the resistance to the state that has it. Now, for Foucault, that scares the shit out of him. Foucault actually has more sympathy for Tocqueville here on this and the fear of state centralization and state power. And this is why he understands that you can never escape state power. And therefore, the idea that you can these private institutions are checks of state power in the Tocquevillian solution offers him a little more hope in that sense, that small period. But this disappears quickly in his biopolitics argument. I think this is maybe tied, if I want to tie it to his own lifestyle choices. And we can remember that, that's always the danger. Again, the genealogy approach of his approach. Then the left hates it when you point out, look at Foucault's life as an example of how to understand his thought. Saying, oh, no. Tell us we should use other people's lives to understand their thought. So we use Foucault's technique on him. It's a no. So that's the problem in that sense. This is why I think it's a much more interesting thing. Agamben himself is weird because Agamben embraces, look at Jojo Agamben, who is basically a combination of Foucault and what's his name, Deleuze, right? With a little bit of Schmidt tied in there. And he turns to the Middle Ages, right? That's, some of my Catholic conservative friends who were Latin massers were the ones who pointed me to Agamben's work on the medieval Catholic Church, a very appreciative work on the Middle Church. I mean, there's something elementary correct about, the postmodernists get something, even this is something that Jordan Peterson says. Yes, the postmodernists get some things right about the Enlightenment, but they also they see something worthy in the ancient world. Like this is very much like Lyotard's book. His book on, what is it called? I'm going to drive myself crazy. It's going to drive me crazy. It's Simple Justice. Simple Justice. I'm sorry, I'm holding. Yeah, Jean Francois Leotard. I need to find out what is the book I remember. I remember reading the book at the time in the 1980s and 1990s. And I was like saying, oh my God, this is very interesting. Published by Minnesota. Was it Just Gaming? I think it's Minnesota, published in '79. It's going to drive me crazy. It's Just Gaming? Oh, freaking shit. It's going to drive me crazy. I'm sorry I'm doing this at the same time, but I just need to get the name right. Yes, it's Just Gaming. Yes, I remember this book. Where in Just Gaming, he was defending classical natural right, Aristotle, prudence, even though he was kind of distancing himself from it. But it was kind of like, it was when he was talking about his reaction to the Kantian rationalization and the threats of this, and he saw in the ancient idea, and actually even in Leo Strauss, this was a kind of weird thing that some of the French writers started looking at Strauss and said, well, Strauss is not wrong here in his natural right and history and that stuff. And they looked at Strauss's position, and because what Strauss says there is, in fact, in some ways a reaction to Heidegger. Natural right and history is very much a reaction to Heidegger in that sense. It is, because history, or it's Heidegger, but historicism, right? It is the conception of this, particularly radical historicism. It is his attempt to kind of respond to Heidegger in a certain way and defend the tension of the difference between, let's say, how justice and natural justice over time changed in that sense. It is a phenomenology of the question of natural right, from ancient to modern, how history alters it, and then the construction of this, and how this is a response to Heideggerian frameworks. Well, Lyotard looks at something like Just Gaming, looks at how Strauss's conception of classical natural right and said, oh, this is something interesting. This is something interesting because we get a you can see this also. I remember the same thing in the 1980s. Derrida himself looks at Aristotle's book 3 of the Politics, particularly on the discussion of a scene that I talk about in my book. That talks about the, I don't want to get it. Hold on. I want to get to 100. Yeah, okay, whatever. What's his name? I actually was surprised by this because I got, one of the critiques. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ben. What's his name? In a note, Jeffrey Benetton, one of the big Heidegger, Derrida's big translator, Derrida, in an article in the journal Discourse and elsewhere in 2008, where he talks about, and this is the famous article where he mentions my book in Aristotle, which I was surprised by. I was shocked that he would mention my book. it was really a shocker for me that this is the article. No. This is Note 18. I reserve for a future occasion a discussion on the relationship between this argument that he does, that Derrida's argument about Book 3 about the different claims about justice that put forward against traditional Aristotle scholarship, right? In other words, he talks about how can I want to get back to that. He goes against traditional Aristotle by Clifford Bates's Aristotle's Best Regime and Baton Rouge. This, who argues Aristotle really thinks democracy is the best regime. This is, okay, let me go to 18. In fact, this is a whole discussion of Aristotle's text and the Institute thing here. He goes, so if all the regimes were in fact deviant with respect to supposedly correct forms, democracy would have turned out to be the best form in fact. And if all regimes were in some sense transcendental, then democracy would turn out to be transcendentally the best form of all. But this transcendental, which would have to allow for the logical generalized deviance or perversion we are interested in, could not, of course, strictly be transcendental as well, but rather we all now call the quasi-transcendental. Right? This is a turn to Aristotle. This is Jeffrey Benetton turning to Aristotle to kind of, in Derrida's turning to Aristotle to kind of understand democracy, defensive democracy. This is like Derrida in the late thousands, after his making peace with, this is that famous post 9/11 peace treaty between Habermas and Derrida. Before, like during the 1990s, Habermas, who's this basically a neo-Kantian, a rationalist, a Kantian, public sphere, public rationalist, transcendental, not transcendental, but kind of Kantian, not transcendental in terms of this, but the ontological conception of transcendental identity, of an idea of rationality that defines public space. And Derrida looked at that and called criticism, and Habermas would call Derrida, basically a Schmittian in that sense. And therefore, only after 9/11, where both of them kind of made peace with each other, to criticize the kind of position of the Bush administration's war on terror and America per se. Because in other words, even though they had very much, Derrida and Habermas disagreed ontologically, but they both agreed politically, and that they both hated the United States. They both saw the United States as a geopolitical threat to their view of the world, either Eurocentric or a European world that is either neoliberal or post-neoliberal, right? This is still, this is the making peace of the deep post-structuralists and the old left, right? The liberals, in other words, the neoliberals and the deconstructionists made peace against to counter a kind of an American-centric hegemony, right? So Lyotard's writing no, this is like 1970s. He wrote Just Gaming, 79, so 80. All right. Just Gaming was a kind of this moment of realization, way ahead of Derrida. But didn't go deep with it. Didn't see this. This is, and in fact, in Just Gaming, there is the reference to Strauss's Natural Right and History. So, what about this question? I don't know. I mean, I don't know more about that in that sense. Okay, but that's going to be enough for now. I have a headache. That's going to. Oh, I can hear my voice straining. My wife's back from her mother's doctor visit. That they were like 6 hours today. More than 6 hours. The waiting in line had been pushed. Normally we don't wait this much line, but I think the new neoliberal government cut the budget for the healthcare sector. So the doctors are trying to get as many visits as they are. They'll overbook, and therefore try to justify their overconnecting of things. So that's why that's been kind of crazy. What can I say? I have I'm waiting for my, European Conservative asked me to make some changes. I have to add for my review of De La Mora, my piece on De La Mora. They need me to add quotes, and I have to go. I'm not home. I'm home Monday. I'll probably be back in Warsaw Monday. So it's kind of like, so I have to go spend at least 4 or 5. And they gave me to the 27th at the end of the month to do it. I have to add like 5 or 6 quotes. So maybe 7. Put some quotes in there, and I have to go find the book and just pick the quotes I'm going to like, and from there and put it in there. I don't really know how to do that. I just have to go take something out. Just go take it and say, okay, there's. We'll do that for De La Mora piece for the European Conservative, but De La Mora's book on Egalité and Envy, which I still think is a wonderful book. Another thing is I'm waiting for the stupid people at the Polish Journal to publish the thing. I didn't get points for it now already. If it was out now, it would have gotten points for it for my 100 points. That would have made my points total a little better. But no, it didn't happen. So I'm kind of like annoyed by it. I haven't gotten my. I turned something in September. I turned it in at beginning of September, right? So it's October. Actually, I was a good boy. I think I got it. Yeah, September, October, November. So 3 months now. We haven't heard anything about. I was expecting to get my feedback about these corrections or comments back for this article that was originally 120 points. Now it's only going to be 40 points on my Aristotle's political anthropology thing that I wrote this summer. I struggled with this summer. I haven't touched my political. I brought my political form thing. Here it is. My article. I need to put the footnotes and referencing for this and get it to the publisher. I'm waiting to hear. I'm hoping that Paul Seaton has agreed to I don't know how he left it. It was kind of like he was pissed at me, I think, for the book review. He was expecting something more, and we had, he started nickel and dime me about something, and I was really upset. It wasn't writing. He was bringing some old arguments about my writing, and that he just decided, and he was angry at how I didn't address the way Baton disagreed with Machiavelli. Because that wasn't the point of what I was originally doing. So basically I ended up rewriting the piece just to please him, totally rewriting the piece because doing the edits to shorten it was being just impossible. So I totally rewrote the piece to make it fit his little thing, and then he got snide about doing it. I haven't heard back from him. Interpretation took a pass at my multi-volume review of Gouchet. Because I was being too general, and they wanted more detail. it would have been easier to me if they wanted it. They should have said, "Listen, give me more. Explain this." Like actually, the editor did a good job. The editor put some comments on it, and I just fixed those. I can't easily answered those questions in the heroes, and it would only take just simply like that, and it would have been publishable. But they just said no, they're passing. And I go because it's too specific. So because I think it was too general. They thought it was too general. It was too general. It was written for a introduction to people who want a shot. So I sent it to Vogel and View, and they said, "Okay, maybe yes, but then I haven't. It's November, and they haven't published it yet, and I haven't heard anything but from Paul Grouse yet. And he's doing all sorts of artsy-fartsy stuff, which is a little disappointing because he himself thinks himself an artsy. He thinks himself an artist in that sense. He wanted to turn away from the more traditional being a scholar, being a place where the way Lee tempered the previous Lee did it. Lee, I can't. Lee's now dean at provost or dean at Assumption College now in Massachusetts. Lee Temperton, Temperton. I can never say his last name, Temperton. Lee was a good editor there, and he was publishing mostly book reviews. He has his own Substack where he does his kind of book review stuff there. And what happened was the current new editor there has moved away from kind of book reviews to do more kind of like magazine-ish things. Oh, he's going to see this and get me mad, but I'm just a little annoyed. I hope to get it published there because otherwise I have to go someplace else because it's a good piece. I'm tempted to get all my little pieces of for foreign writers. I got a piece that's at a Polish magazine on Oakshott. I think it'll be rejected because it doesn't have footnotes. It doesn't have enough notes. It doesn't have enough notes. It needs notes. And I thought about it only after I sent it. I said, maybe I should have put some notes in it, references to the text. But it's too late. They're going to either reject or accept it. They back me for correction with notes. It'll be okay, great. It's okay. It's only worth 40 points for the Polish system, but it's it was simply something I just wrote about Oakshott that I've always wanted to say about Oakshott. Like the thing I wrote at the Critic on something I always wanted to say about a Scruton, my view of Scruton's limitations. And people say, "Oh, you're good." I have been reading this. My new copy of this came. I had the different version of this as a PDF, not a PDF, in EPUB. Yeah, no, it's EPUB. Yeah, it was EPUB. It was the original version of the thing as an EPUB. I don't know how I got an EPUB of it, but this is the 4th volume of the Good Shot series. And I got all the other ones in the same series because it was a lot cheaper than getting it the folio edition. It was significantly cheaper in the folio and has everything the big book has, but just formatted differently. So I was happy that this only became available like this month. Yay! And it came from France. So I was very happy with it says it's 2017 edition, but this edition came to be published only this month, the 4th volume. So I'm like, yay! What does it say? Yeah, it was this October. It was a 2nd October. So the publishers distributed it. They did the Depot digital is October 2024. So this has been pretty good reading this on this structure, and that's the way it goes. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. So I've been paying attention to this as Mr. Corliss said some good things about it, and I read the first volume of it, and what's so interesting is some of the chapters here are I don't know. It's actually, you read it differently when you're not reading as PDF. So I'll say that. Or there's an ebook. I read the thing as the ebook, and I was, getting it out loud, and it was kind of like, okay, I was cheating a little bit with the ebook because I was doing some translations. I was having it translated as I was reading the ebook. So now I'm reading it in the French without the automatic translation. So it's been okay. Something may be different now. So it's been interesting in that sense. Well, that's it. That's my structures for stuff. I got articles. I need to go do some more writing on things. I have to do student stuff. I owe students stuff. My students are kind of mad at me for my thing. I have to give them back their feed of their thing. I'll probably do this weekend. I have time to do it today and tomorrow. Today I got a meeting at my private school, the American school, online meeting at around 7. So an hour from now. So that's that. I kept my word. Gave you the things. I hope to be back in Warsaw in my normal location, that we can do things there. Please put your comments and things, suggestions of what you want me to do. Like it. So far, one person liked it. So if you really like to hit the like button, it helps the algorithm and the growth of things. Check out my social media links. If you're not bought it already, please buy my my UPub. The links are below in the subject information in the card, where you can buy it by Lulu and I get more money, but if you buy it by Amazon, I'll get Kindle is available on Kindle, and I'm told it's available on Apple even. So if you have your Apple thing, go find it on Apple. I should go look. Please go check out help. When you buy the book, it helps me. Okay, or you can buy one of my other books. It helps me less directly, unless you buy the Aristotle notes. And I'll be honest with you, I've been finding mistakes in the Aristotle's things. I found 5 mistakes, 5 annoying typos. 5 annoying typos that I missed. I thought I caught them all again, and it's pissing me off. One is a chapter. I misnumber the chapter in book 3, and I misnumber a chapter in book. I think book 4. Book 3 and book. I think book 3 and book 4. There's a chapter misnumbering, and it pisses me off. The mistake does. How did I miss it? How did I? I thought I caught all those little mistakes. I promised to be doing something with the. I gave up for a while because I did something. I had a success. I was able to. I took all the chapter by chapter, and I converted. I can convert I separated it. The white was one document. It's like 8 on 4. If I put it in the thing, the format for Lulu, it'll be like 800 pages long. And the A4 format, it's the A4 format I have is over 400 and something pages. I chopped it up into chapter by chapter, book things. I made the things, and I then like 5 of the chapter 1 thing words into Word document, and it worked. It worked into a hypertext HTML thing, and then what I did was I took one of them. I took the video from the Politics 1 chapter 1 thing I did on YouTube, and I pasted it inside of the thing at the end of the thing, and it worked. I embedded it. Okay, so I started made a list of all the books and chapters, and I started copying the URL information for that. But then I realized I can't copy some of it, of the stuff that's still going, because it's to be released now again. and therefore you can't get the URL information or the embedding code until only after it is released. So I have to wait a couple months. I'll probably do it in the new year. I'll finish up what I left off in the new year. I will then start doing, in about 2 or 3 weeks, start doing the recordings. I may start during November doing some recordings for the Machiavelli stuff early. We'll see how this works. I know I'm going to do this. I have the material. I have the retaining. I did the PDFs for a lot of things. We made some of the screen. We made some of the screen cards for it. So we're making. This is the work we're going to be doing. So in the future, we're going to be doing the prints, but the discourses, and that's what we're doing in that sense. And I'll be doing some writing, and I'll be starting the new term. I'm doing a new course at Norwich deciding Monday on repeating the diplomacy, history diplomacy, where we're going to repeat what I did this semester. And that is what I'll be doing. And so again, please hit the like button if you didn't hit the like button already. If you've seen it, watching it not live, then you can like it, and put comments on below. Put some comments on what you want me to talk about in the future in that sense, or some theme. Maybe Mr. Corliss, James will say something about my comments to him. What else? Please buy my books if you get it, if you can. I talked about my other book. I am thinking about doing them, see what happens. What else? Social media links. Go like the social media links. But if you want to go follow me on social media, please follow my social media or my academic social media. Please do so. And you can help as a contributor on Subscribestar or Patreon if you wish, or just buy one of my books. Take care and have a good weekend. Bye-bye. See you later.